Okay, everyone, welcome back. We are going to continue the class that we started last week, Thursday, which belongs to Parshas Noach. This is already Parshas Lech Lecha this week. We're learning now Key to Redemption, episode 28. And this is the second class. This particular episode is called A Higher Accounting. And there's some amazing, powerful teachings of how to pick ourselves up and rectify everything that still needs to be rectified within ourselves, but do it not usually the power of rectification and dealing with our deficiencies involve a certain type of hardship. It's a certain type of heaviness, because we have to examine ourselves and look at our imperfected side. In this particular talk, the Rebbe is giving us how to do tshuva in already floating on Mashiach's cloud, and yet at the same time recognizing where it is that we are not yet completely in sync, because we all know that we're not perfectly in sync yet with the life that it is, the higher life, the godly life. Once Mashiach is here already, we're not in that perfected state. So how can we examine our ways, find what needs to be polished and elevated or even changed, but not in a way like we've always used to do it, with heaviness and frustration and pain, but to do it in a very joyous way. So it's really, really phenomenal. So let's go back to what we learned in class number 1. We were talking about how Shabbos Parshas Noach is similar to Parshas Bereshis, is that Parshas Bereshis includes the entire year. That's why we say that when a person sets themselves up, you set the tone on Shabbos Bereshis, so it will continue the entire year. So we said the same applies also to Shabbos Parshas Noach. That Shabbos Noach is also a week that includes the whole year, but the difference between them is as follows. In Bereshis, we have the entire year in potential, because we didn't do anything yet. The world has just been created, and we haven't yet gone out to work. This is the first week. Parshas Noach is when we finished the first week of work within the world. So we've done already a week of work. Now, being that the first week, and then after that, it's just going to repeat itself week after week. Obviously, each week is going to be unique and different. But the fact that we've already done 1 week, we've done a trial run and made it around 1 week of work within the world, which happens after the holidays. We're back in the world. We're back in our work of uplifting the world. So we can say that the first Shabbos includes the entire year, but over here it's already in practice. It's not just in potential. And in the last class we learned that when you have something in practice, it's much higher than potential, because like we find that Bereshis is the parsha of potential, and over there you're dealing with the divine input. Because potential is divine. It's God is putting the potential into the world. He's empowering. But which name of God is mentioned in Bereshis? Only God's external name. Because God's investment in creation, at least the way it appears on the outside, is only his name of Elokim, which is a very diminished and external connection to the world. But once we come to Noach, and the end of Parshas Bereshis, it says, V'Noach matzachein be'enei havaya. We discover the name of Yudke Vavke, which means as a result of man's work, and the way the Rebbe continue to explain how the entire Parshas Noach, we find that the world gets a certain stability, and God makes a sign with the world, which both the sign and the stability that God promises that the world will continue to exist forever, will never be broken, and that the world will go on forever, and it will never expire. That power, as the Rebbe says, is the power of Shem Havaya. It's from the higher transcendence of God, where there is no change. On the lower levels of God, of the divine energies, as godliness becomes the source of creation, there is change. It only says regarding Havaya, Ani Hashem, Ani Yudke Vavke, Loi Shanisi, there is no change. So only through our practical work, like Noach is doing the work. And what type of a work? A work that's already at the brink of destruction. a world that's, I'm sorry, not a work, a world that is already fallen to the lowest possible state, yet the world self-rectifies. The world self kind of rehabilitates itself through Noach. That and it precisely in that work we reach God on in so much deeper level than when the world is perfect from God's where God, the place where God placed it, a perfect world, but yet external, and that world does not have stability because it's not connected to the name of Havaya. And that was also the other idea that we said, that before the flood, you couldn't, the clouds were so dense that there was no light coming through. There was no rainbow. The rainbow represents that a world, that the clouds, which represent, as we discussed in last class, the clouds represent, the clouds represent that which is being elevated, the mist that's rising from the world. It means all of human productivity is met with the sunlight. Sun represents not just godliness, but supreme godliness. The name Havaya, which means, what does that mean? As the Rebbe explains, it means that as a result of our work, we are able to uncover, reveal, express in every single aspect of creation how its truth is not only its divine energy, but its truth is really God Himself. Okay, something keeps on popping up on my screen, so I'm just worried that the video is not good, but I think we're good. Okay, I'm out of my regular place, but let's hope that the Wi-Fi holds and everything is going to work out really well. Okay, so based on all of this, which we've discussed and listened to class 1 to get that idea. So we're holding now. Sorry, we are holding now in. We are holding now in chapter 5 of this amazing talk. He says now we can add on that this great advantage, which comes to the world as a result of practical work on our end, versus all the potential good that God puts into the world from His end. In other words, what the Rebbe is really saying is that we outdo God, because God wants that we should bring out the ultimate potential. And when we do that, we bring out a deeper truth about creation and about God that has not been revealed before. So this expresses itself in the next Parsha Torah portion, which is the Parsha of Lech Lecha, which Parsha Pratis is actually this. We're now in the week of Lech Lecha, although we're still learning the Sikha on Parshas Noach. And anyways, in Parshas Lech Lecha, which we start reading in the Mincha, in the afternoon service of Shabbos, of when it's still Parshas Noach, we're already learning Lech Lecha. That's why the Rebbe is talking about it, because the Rebbe is feeling the energies of Lech Lecha already, and he's uncovering. And he says this idea that through our practical work, we don't just match God, but we bring out so much deeper that which is more than God had inputted in creation. We see that in Lech Lecha, because Lech Lecha is the commandment where Hashem tells Abraham, Avram Avinu, our father, which is really a calling to every single one of us. And Hashem says, go to the land and start working, start revealing godliness in the world. Before that, Abraham is a little bit of a hermit. He's serving Hashem in his own little corner. He's doing his own thing. And God says to him, no good. Now you got to get out there. You have to go out into the world. You have to start influencing the world. So what happens? So number one, when Hashem tells Avram, Lech Lecha, go, means that Hashem is enabling Avram Avinu and via Abraham, every single one of us, that we should be able to attain and move to a place that is considered the ultimate journey. What does that mean? That we can travel a distance, an unmeasurable distance. Because the real meaning of going somewhere else, if that place that you're arriving to still is somehow connected to where you are, you never really went away from where you are. So to go away from where you are, like God says, Abraham, go away from your land, from your father's house, which means spiritually, lift yourself up higher and higher and higher to the point that you have no more connection at all to where you were. You're going to such unimaginable heights, unattainable heights. But how is Abraham going to reach Avram is going to reach such spiritual attainments, such high levels? Not by secluding himself from the world, hiding from the world, but by engaging the world, by going down, 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 down to deal with a world full of idolatry, full of corruption, a dark world, and yet shining the light, shining the holy light of Judaism, of monotheism, of holiness. So by going into the world, and you're going to go so high, and Hashem says that the end of the verse is, to the land that I will show you. Simply, it means to a land that I will show you. A land, whichever land I will show you that land, the land of Canaan, the land of Israel. The deeper meaning means the land that I will reveal you. In other words, as long as you don't actualize, in other words, when I created you with my potential, whatever I put into you, but you're not kicking in and doing your part, you're not activating the powers I put into you. So, but you are who I made you. You will never know who you really are. You will never really actualize the incredible light that's in your soul. But when you will kick it, that's the whole point over here. The work, the actual work, when we're actually involved in doing whatever it is that we're doing things in this world to improve the world, shining light, teaching Torah, doing mitzvahs, inspiring other people. Whatever it is that we are doing, when we are literally doing it, what happens to us then? Elo Aretz, we rise to the land where God can show us who? He can show us who we are, our true depth of our soul, which is so much greater than the self that we are when we were pure and holy and purely what God made us. We bring out so much deeper, infinitely deeper about ourselves than the self that God created. Same idea that we're talking about. The highest of the high can only come through the actualization, through our work. Now, and not only does man reveal, does each and every one of us reveal our soul, who we are, or the depth of the Jewish soul, the depth of our godly soul, but even more than that, we actually start revealing the godliness that's in creation as well. In the world itself, not in ourselves. So we bring out the depth. In order to come to the highest depth of self, it requires actual work. Number two, when we do that, we reveal the godliness that's within the world. And number three, we even cause an elevation in the divine itself is also elevated. And what is that? The name of Elokim, which is the external name of God, which he is really uncovered, how that too is really Havaya, like we discussed in last class. That it says Havaya hu Elokim, that really Elokim externally seems to be a projected light of God, a limited light, but in truth, it's really also, its depth is really Havaya. So what we're doing is we're lifting up the divine as well as also being elevated. As we're lifting, so to speak, God up, the God of creation, we're revealing in him his connection to the how that energy is absolutely one with the omnipotence of God himself, with Havaya, with the transcendent light. So it's an entire elevation. So here's when we leave things the way they are, they're beautiful, but they're not anywhere close to what they are in depth, in truth. When we actualize and we do our work, which sometimes involves temporary descents and falls, because when we deal with the world, there's always the pitfalls, there's always the mistakes that we can make. We should never be intimidated by that, because when we keep ourselves focused and we do what we need to do, we come out winning and elevating so much higher than anything that was given to us as a gift from above. Okay. With that, with that said, we go to chapter 6. So here the Rebbe is going to turn the entire talk into a phenomenal call for tshuva, but a different type of tshuva. Tshuva usually means we've been doing tshuva in the entire month of Elul, the month of Tishrei. We concluded the period of tshuva. We would think that tshuva is over, but over here it's a different tshuva. It's not a tshuva about examining our past and regretting all the dark stuff we've done, the negative things. but rather it's a type of tshuva which is a self-inspection on the work site. In other words, you're already on the work site. You're there. There's a new project, and we're all showed up for work. We're all already in the work. The work has begun. Each year presents with us new energies for a whole new project, for a whole new investment in life, for each and every one of us to impact the world the way God wants us to impact the world. Our sleeves are rolled up. We are in action already. We're beginning to do, but the Rebbe says at the end of the first week, since the first week is the prototype for the entire year, at the end of the week, we have to stop for a moment and examine where we are and see where we could have done better already in the first week. This is a very interesting type of a tshuva the Rebbe is presenting. That now that we're energized and we're set off to work, and you just got started, stop for a moment, examine if your initial work in the year is being done on the perfected state that it should, on the potential that you could, and if you're looking and doing it an honest observation after 1 week of work, and you're kind of seeing that you've been slacking off a little bit, or we're working, but we're kind of like not utilizing the fullest potential, and we could have done and we could do much better. Let's fix it right now. Let's nip it in the bud right at the beginning of the year, so that we can now build on this fresh analysis, in addition to what we've taken upon ourselves in the last 2 months of introspection and set ourselves on a new path. Now that we've already started the work, it's the tshuva while we're on the work. It's the tshuva in the midst of the work. Let's just improve everything immediately right now. And the Rebbe is going to explain how this tshuva needs to be done with tremendous joy. It's not, even though we're going to look at ourselves and going to find that we've already gotten off the first week, not on the best path. Maybe that we could have done way better than we do it. But the type of tshuva that we are recalled to do should not be one that drains us and makes us feel bad, but one that we can literally instantly lift ourselves up and really shoot for the heights immediately and get things done right. That's the and it's interesting how the Rebbe is going to take this idea and bring it to the general calculation of the world regarding Mashiach. Really, but we have to wait. We have to build this together to get there together with the Rebbe. So let's see how he takes that there. He says, based on all of this that we said before, that this is the end. Parshas Noach is the end of the first week of our work in this world in the actual. So it's understood that on Shabbos, Parshas Noach, at the conclusion of the week of Noach, this is the right time to do a correct, a righteous, or a honest accounting on our work regarding the upcoming year, that we're already in it. In other words, an accounting, did we set off, are we on the right, are we moving in the right direction? And are we marching at the speed we need to march with the energy that we need to march? So he says to test and to examine all the specifics of the work that we did in the last week and the week of Shabbos and on Shabbos. That means examine these 7 days, including Shabbos, because again, this round of the first 7 days of the week of work includes within it all the future weeks, all the 50 so weeks of the year. So therefore, this is such an important time to really, it's like, this is such a lesson, because, there is so many times that we make shifts in our lives. We get into a new job, we take on a new project, and we have like hopes and so on and so forth, and we're rolling. It's important right at the beginning to check, to stop. It's like you're going on a 100-mile bike ride. Maybe after 5 or 10 miles, stop, check your tires, check your brakes, make sure everything is oiled, make sure you're on the map, you're going the right way right now, because if you're going to be off and you're going to start off already mediocre, you're not going too far. Or even when you're going to go, you're not going to have the results you need to have. So it's an inspection that has to happen right now, right at the beginning. And the point over here is not the type of tshuva where it's supposed to bring us to angst and to pain and regret, but the whole thing is just an adjustment, just to fix and to quickly fill up the tank if we're left with 3/4 of a tank and our tank is not really full, or our tires are not fully at the thing. It's right now is the time to get ourselves up on everything to the perfect state, so that we can do the entire work that we're doing this coming year, which is, as we said before, the work brings us and elevates ourselves and elevates godliness and elevates the world. So we should be able to do it all in its perfect state. So now the Rebbe says, we can say that this calculation that we do on Shabbos Parshas Noach, which is a tshuva, so to speak, an accounting on the first week of the literal work, it has to be done in similar to the work itself. What did we say before? We said before that the greatness of the actualization over the potential is that when we actualize things, we bring out a much deeper level of the potential that was never revealed in the potential itself. Like we said, the potential is the divine infusement that God puts into creation. Yet we said that in the potential, what is seen and vibrant and experienced is only the external element of that light, the name of Elokim. But through our work that we do, we uncover the Havaya that's in Elokim. So the Rebbe says, which is much deeper, infinitely deeper, the infinity of God. So he's now going to teach us how the tshuva that we're doing, this is so amazing, how the rectification itself that we're going to do should not be a tshuva which is coming from the name of Elokim, which we'll soon see what type of tshuva that is. It should not be a tshuva that's coming purely from the name of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is a different type of a tshuva. But rather it should be a fusion of Havaya and Elokim together in a way that we reveal how the Elokim is really part of Havaya, part of the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. The tshuva itself, this quick accounting that we're doing now to improve ourselves, is a unique type of a tshuva, and it's a very invigorating and a very empowering form of tshuva, of repentance. Again, we tshuva meaning of returning and setting ourselves straight. Now, this idea, he says in general, that what? That the tshuva that we're talking about over here has to be in a manner that equalizes Havaya and Elokim, is really something that is true about tshuva all the time. In other words, this is something related to tshuva in general. Regarding tshuva, we say, famous Haftorah, the portion of the prophets that we read on the famous Shabbos of tshuva, the Shabbos between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is called Shabbos tshuva. We say, Shuva Yisrael, return Israel, ad Hashem Elokecha, or in other words, ad Havaya Elokecha. So it's explained in many Hasidic discourses that the tshuva has to be in a way where you lift up the name of Elokim into Havaya. That you reveal in Elokim the name of, you touch the infinite, So tshuva is always in that manner of submerging the finite world and the finite person into the infinite source. Primarily, he says, that's always in tshuva. But especially the type of tshuva the Rebbe is calling for in Parshas Noach, this sublime tshuva, which has to do after the first week of work. Again, it's not your regular tshuva where you're doing an accounting on your whole entire year. You're examining yourself because we realize that we're not doing the way we should. That's earlier in the year. Now we're pumped up. We're already out there. We're already doing, we're in the midst of our lech lecha. We're in the midst of our work. Stop a moment for self-examination. And he's going to explain that in chapter 7. And he says, by first prefacing, very important. He says, in general, there is a rule that we're supposed to always look at each other with the right eye, which means we're supposed to look at each other with the benefit and give each other the benefit of the doubt. That means we're supposed to look positively at other people, and therefore we shouldn't try to find faults, because there is a rule. Kol Yisrael b'cheskas kashrus. All of Israel is always assumed kosher, which means innocent. It's innocent until proven guilty. And we have to train ourselves not to look at people with a critical eye, but we should always look at people with a positive eye in the way of saying, people are doing the right thing. People are doing well. The Rebbe says, however, that rule, as beautiful as it sounds, is the way we're supposed to look at other people. That's true. When you're examining everybody else, you should always give people the benefit of the doubt. However, when it comes to self, a person always has to also have an open eye, a critical eye, because or else we don't improve. If we're always thinking that we're always perfect and we're always good and we're always right, then we don't have any room for improvement. So a person cannot accept that idea that all Jews are considered kosher. You got to examine, say, maybe I'm not kosher. Maybe there's something missing. So then, and that's when it comes to self. Okay? And a person from time to time, it's not good to continuously criticize oneself, but we have to set times when we stop for a moment and say, listen, I need to examine myself. How am I doing? And you have to examine all of that. The examination has to be thorough in thought, in speech, and in action. How are my actions? How's my speech? And how's my thought? Now, the point over here is not to get down on ourselves and say, wow, this is terrible. I did this, I said this, and I thought that. That's not what it is. Point over here is it's supposed to lead to a correction, to corrective implementation. What am I going to do now to correct it, to improve, to correct those things that needs correction, or even if they don't need correction, but they need perfection, we can always perfect it. But most important is not to get excited about fixing problems, but rather, the excitement is not the point over here. The Rebbe is very practical. The point over here is the actual fixing of it, not being, it's in my head, I need to fix it, not being conscious of it, but doing it. The main thing is the actually getting done. So at the end of the week, take a look. We just started a year. We made all kinds of promises, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. We decided we're going to have a year where we're going to do so much better. At the end of the week, do yourself a favor. Did you perform this week? Did we perform this week what we promised Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur? Were we really as influential and as positive and as energetic in Torah and in mitzvot and in all the good we could do? Or were we slacking off? If we were slacking off, we take note of it. Don't get down on it. Be determined, and it's not enough to be determined to fix it, but to actually fix it. Go ahead and do it. And here the Rebbe puts in a side note, very important, that the most important is the deed, the actual repairing of whatever needs to be repaired. Although he says tshuva, which is what we're really engaging in, we're trying to fix the past. So it's tshuva. And tshuva involves a lot of the heart. Tshuva is explained in many places as a deep contrition in the heart, a deep feeling of regret in order to fix things. So there's a very strong tshuva in the heart. If the Rebbe says feelings in the heart don't fix problems, it's a good start. It generates energy, but that's not where the problems get fixed. Problems get fixed in the realm of action. Action must be taken in order to fix problems. And he says, when it comes between man and God, when issues between man and God, sometimes we can perhaps convince ourselves that it's enough to feel bad and to have a determination to improve. And that works. But we know, he says, take for example, when it comes to other people, and if God forbid we insulted or offended or for whatever reason harmed another human being, you can't fix these problems in your own heart. As much as you regret having hurt someone, the only way to fix the problem is to make good on that hurt. If it's an apology, then you have to offer the apology. Thinking about apologizing doesn't fix the problem. If you stole someone's money, it doesn't help about feeling terrible that you stole someone's money or even determining that you're going to give the money back. You need to actually go to that individual and hand the money back that you've, God forbid, deceived them or whatever it is. All these things must be done in the literal. That's the rule when it comes to issues between blemishes and faults between a person and their fellow man. As the verse says, you should return the theft that you stole. It's not enough feeling bad about it. You have to literally do it. The Talmud actually says that stealing, there's different levels of theft. A form of theft is beautiful how the Rebbe says. The Rebbe is trying to show us that things need to be fixed in the actual world. This, it's so amazing. Because this Lubavitcher Rebbe, who's speaking so lofty and on the highest, most abstract, deepest levels of this, is bringing it down and telling us that no, just like that, problems need to be fixed in the literal sense, on the most literal sense. And he gives an interesting example. The Talmud says, you're walking on the street and someone said hello to you. You did not respond. Someone said good morning. You did not say good morning in response. Someone walks into shul, and it could have been you were very busy. And it could have even been that you're very busy with something very holy. You're putting on the tefillin. You're not supposed to talk out when you're putting in the tefillin. You're holding in the middle of prayer, and someone says good morning, and you don't answer. Now, the truth is, you could nod, but you didn't, because you're busy with God and doing a mitzvah. But that person was offended. They might not realize that you're where you're holding, and they're thinking that you're dismissing them, or they're not important in your eyes to answer. Maybe they're just a collector who's collecting money, and they're thinking, you know what, I'm a nobody, and the guy doesn't want to say hi to me when I say hi to them. Whatever the thing is, if a person reached out to you or said something, hi, hello, and you ignored them, that ignoring is, and that includes, by the way, people sometimes call us and we don't answer the phone and we don't respond, and that's a problem. Maybe because we don't think that person is as important on our list. We have our people that if they call us, immediately we call them back. But then there are people, sometimes a person needs our attention. The person needs us to respond to them. So it's important. It's important for the response. It's important to reach out, to answer. Obviously, there's you have to know your time and what your availability, but at least a nod, at least a response. If there is no response, then that itself is considered a form, the Talmud says, of a stealing from the poor man. Now, here is a very interesting thing the Rebbe says. It makes no difference that even though, as we said earlier, you can have the loftiest reasons why we were busy and we were doing a mitzvah, and when you're doing one mitzvah, you're exempt from doing another mitzvah. That's all true. That's all true. So there's no blemish on your soul. You didn't do anything wrong. But there is hurt in the world that is caused by this ignoring. There is hurt. And that hurt you have to take care of. So then you have to make good on it. You have to go and make good on that hurt. How do you do it? By reaching out to that person, say, I missed you, sorry. Here's my back, hello, how are you? And so on and so forth. The Rebbe is pointing out how things need to be fixed in the literal sense. When it comes to tshuva, it's not enough the feelings inside. It needs to be in the actual sense. Now, this idea that the blemishes we've made in the world, maybe the tiniest things, right, require our attention and require literal fixing, the Rebbe adds, this needs to be even on Shabbos. Shabbos is such a lofty day. I'm not dealing with the world. No, the Rebbe says even on Shabbos, because Shabbos especially is a day of Avas Yisrael, of loving a Jew and of Jewish unity. So Shabbos, more than any other time, if there has been any kind of even the tiniest slight of someone's honor, it's a time that we have to fix it. We should be more sensitive on Shabbos to our actions that we had during the week or on Shabbos itself that might have, God forbid, caused any bit of pain. And as is emphasized, the Rebbe says, regarding hosting guests on Shabbos. During the weekday, one is not, it's always important to reach out and give someone a meal. But on Shabbat, on Shabbos, we know it is it's a custom that people always invite guests. Now, it's interesting. On the holidays, one is obligated to have guests. It says that if you have your meal with your own family, you don't invite people to your home, that meal is not, God says, on the holidays, God says, that meal angers me, it's considered filth to me, I'm not joining it, right? So we should have always people that we have over at our home. On Shabbos, one is not obligated to do that. Yet it is a custom to do that. Now the Rebbe says in a footnote, very interesting footnote, footnote number 61. He says the reason Shabbos you're not obligated to have guests, and in the holidays you are, is not because Shabbos is less of a time of unity. Quite on the contrary. Shabbos, the reason you don't have to have a guest is because everybody that comes to your home on Shabbos is not a guest. Shabbos, Jewish unity, is expressed in such a powerful, powerful way that no one is a guest. Everybody, the other is yourself. They are the host themselves. The guest is the host. It's their home. Shabbos people should feel so much at home in your house that they don't even feel like a guest. In the week, on holidays, where the unity is not as intense, like on Shabbos, it's not such a high level of holiness, so it's not such a high level. So then there is a host and there is guest. But on Shabbos, it's not even guest. Everybody, the guest is the host or the hostess themselves. That's the achnosis orchim of Shabbos. In any case, where is this all bringing? This all parenthetically, where the Rebbe is saying that when we're talking about fixing and doing an accounting at the end of the first week, so the Rebbe says, I mean business. I'm not talking about contritions and decisions to improve things. We're talking about actually fixing whatever needs to be fixed. And just like when it comes to issues between people, man and their fellow man, whenever there is some kind of a sin that was done, a fault, any kind of a harm or a hurt, a financial, personal, whatever it is, we understand that to fix it is not enough good intentions to fix it or good thoughts, because the other person doesn't know your thoughts. You need to literally convey that in words or in actions. The same as in all of our business with God and anything that we might not have done correct, it requires to actually fix things. Okay. Now that we have that, now, however, once we're dealing with looking at the last week and fixing things, it takes us into this like a little bit of a heavy place, because fixing things means facing where we messed up. And every time we face where we messed up, it doesn't bring us to feelings of joy and happiness. And quite on the contrary, it can drain our energy. Draining our energy, because as long as you're not thinking so much, you're just driven to do the good things, so then you're in a positive state of mind. But if I have to stop after a week is over and self-examine, and I will realize that I'm not anywhere close to where I should have been, and I've done X, Y, and Z that was not so good, so this is kind of a downer. It's a little bit of a bummer, and all this will drain the energy and bring us down. So the Rebbe says, no, that's the secret that we were talking about before. When you're doing tshuva, it has to be done in a way that Elokim is unified with Havaya. A very lofty idea. How does that work? So look at this. So this is how he explains it. And he says like this. It's possible. There's two ways you can do tshuva over here. One way is that you're doing an accounting in a way that you're looking into all your details and you're looking at fixing what you're doing. So at the time that you're doing this accounting, you can be in a very constricted state. You can be in a very, very limited place. Regarding whichever it is, that aspect of the work that you're trying to fix. And we're talking about details, so we can get very, very, very constricted in the details. That's one way. And of course, the mood can become heavy and uncomfortable. But there's a different way of fixing. There's a different way of kind of repairing. And that is, instead of, imagine it something like this. You have something, it was a while ago. We actually went to a museum. It was in San Diego a couple of months ago. And I took my son. There was a military a ship, aircraft carrier. I forgot already the name, which aircraft carrier is in San Diego Harbor. So in there was one of these, what are they? One of these rides. You have to pay a little extra, and simulator rides. So my son wanted to go, and I took him on it. And it's one of these crazy things where they really shake your stomach up. You think so officially you're on a plane and you're shooting, you're going. So you have this, I forgot this clutch, this I don't know what you call it, like a stick. And I'm supposed to, like, so you can go upwards and you're shooting up, the plane shoots up, and then you go down, you take a dive. So when you're doing tshuva, the Rebbe says, imagine this shift. You can push down and you can dive down into the nitty gritty aspects of your life. The hardship of that is, the let's first say the pros of it is because you're really, really getting into the things that need fixing. You're examining each action, each aspect of your life, and where the fixing and the repair needs to be done. The downside of it is that it can be draining and it can put us in a negative mood. And at the time that you're there, you're in a constricted state. You're not in an expansive state. You're not seeing the entire picture. You're seeing only the here, the now. The other way is to pull the lever and shoot upward, which means when we realize we weren't doing so well, so instead you can pick yourself up and accelerate, like really, really high. Going where? Spiritually, what would that mean? You say to yourself, listen, I it wasn't that good. I need to really, really immerse myself completely into spirituality. In other words, run away from the darkness, immerse myself completely in prayer, in Torah study, in a way where I'm like completely melting myself into a higher light, into a higher energy, that's very uplifting, and that's energetic, and obviously very empowering. And it gives us an incredible infusion of adrenaline, of energy, of boost. What does that mean? I'm going to learn more. I'm going to study more. I'm going to understand more. I'm going to get excited. And I'm going to get a deeper appreciation for my purpose in life and in this world. With that extra energy, next week is going to be much better. I'm going to psych myself up with powerful spiritual energy and enlightenment. Yeah. The pros of it here is that you're in an expansive state. You're happy. You're not down. And you're hoping that this energy that you're going to use is going to already pick you up to a higher place, that next week you're going to have less of these pitfalls, less of these dark moments. It could work, but there's a problem. The problem is that by being so high and in a higher realm, you might miss your problems. You might miss the areas, those little, imagine that, you're going like a spiritual bulldozer. You might not remember that you might have slighted someone's honor. You might not remember that you might have, because you were so engaged in your prayer, you forgot to say hi when someone said hello to you. You forgot to say, pay attention to this individual, because you're so pumped up. So each one has a quality and a negative side to it. What's the real way of doing tshuva, the Rebbe says? What's that we're talking about over here? Again, the tshuva of self-examination that comes after a week of work. What's the real way of doing tshuva? The real way of doing tshuva is to unify both of them together. That means that the uplifting of all the specifics in my life, I'm paying attention to it, to every aspect, but I'm not diving down into the individual aspects of of everyday behavior. Instead, I'm realizing that I have set myself up on a much higher course. My life is right now in a higher stage, in a higher place. Of course, in this higher stage of consciousness, in this higher place, I have to make sure that my behaviors match to this sublime and this higher path that I'm now going in. Let me try to perhaps give a little bit of example, the way I understand what the Rebbe is saying. You have a poor person physically who doesn't have a home, lives on the street, and is from time to time, becomes, and they're living there. They're in a drunken stupor, either on drugs or on alcohol, and life is really, really miserable. But they're so drunk they don't even realize, their state that they're in. From time to time, they sober up. They're sitting at the street corner. They see that their clothing are torn, and they see what kind of pathetic state they're in. They smell from whatever, and they're torn and dirty and on the street, and they have pain. I'm sure so many of these people that are out in the street experience moments of, like, sometimes they're literally so stoned that people don't know. But a person, it's a human being. A person is creating the image of God. There's a certain point where it really hurts, and there's a lot of pain. And usually, God forbid, that can leave a person to alleviate the pain, to get themselves even more entrenched in this spiraling negative behavior. But that type of tshuva, if you might say, contrition, is one of heaviness and darkness and hopelessness. Okay. But here's another story. This homeless individual has been picked up by their cousin, who's wealthy, and brought to a wedding. They have rich relatives. And once one of a kind individual remembered that he has a cousin who's on the street, picked him up, obviously gave him a new pair of clothing, a new to change, to wash up and bring him. But he didn't take care of every little detail. So as this individual is now walking, and it's beautiful, and it's elevated, and there's food, and there's dancing, and there's singing, and people are in a heightened state, and it's beautiful. And he or she is enjoying this atmosphere. And in the middle of it, they realize that maybe they should go to the mirror and clean up a little bit. Maybe the beard needs a little bit of a brush. Maybe the hair needs a little bit of a brush. Maybe the shoes that they're wearing, they managed to change into different clothing, but the shoes is not this. Maybe they can go get themselves a new pair of shoes. So right now they're thinking about their shoe, but they're not thinking about their shoe like when they're on the street and thinking how dark and ugly their life is and everything is torn and yucky. They're in a higher state. And right now they feel that the shoes that they're wearing doesn't match up, or maybe they got new shoes, but the socks are not exactly. They might still be, smelly socks or dirty socks. So they need to get a new pair of socks. So they're focused on fixing it, but the fixing for the pair of socks is not from the low place, from the high place. So it comes with a sense of joy, a sense of like, I gotta, I'm conscious of what needs to be fixed, but I'm in a higher place, and I'm pulling the dark elements of my life into this higher exalted place for me to fix them from this place. Or let me put it this way, to each and every one. I gave an example of an extreme example. We all look at our own lives and we see, hopefully there are a lot of beautiful things in our life that we're doing correct. Then we realize that there are certain things we're a little embarrassed of. Perhaps, we're a little embarrassed of. Each their own, whichever aspect of our lives that you feel like you wouldn't be proud of if everybody knew about it. It's your own little secrets, your own little dark things, it's your own little things, or maybe some people know, maybe you have rage or anger or this, or certain negative, despicable desires, or whatever it is. People's got issues. Everybody got to deal with evil inclination and dark stuff that we have. And we try to fix them. We fix them a little bit. We fix them not. We fix them more. So imagine tomorrow, Mashiach is here. We're suddenly on the clouds. We're already in Jerusalem. We see already the third temple that's over there. Thousands of it's singing. After a while, okay, we're dancing. We're in it. We come back to ourselves, and we, it's not overnight. You become a completely different person. And then you're looking at certain aspects and behavior patterns that we've had, which we're not so proud of. And we realize them and we fix them, but we fix them because we realize that in Mashiach's world, in this such a sublime level of living, it's just not inappropriate to behave like this. It's inappropriate to be petty. It's inappropriate to act in a way that's against God's will in this little detail. We will fix it all, but we won't fix it with heaviness, with darkness, and we won't be drained by it. Quite on the contrary, we lift everything up. We lift all the aspects of our life that are not yet in par with Mashiach. We're going to lift it up into Mashiach's consciousness, into Mashiach's light. We're, from the place of expansiveness, from the place of brightness, from the place of goodness, we repair the nitty, small, little aspects of our life that needs fixing. That's the repair that we're talking about. So that means the deficiencies we have in our life is related to the name of Elokim, because of the constrictions, because of the darkness, which eventually lead to evil inclination and to the dark patterns of human behavior and so on and so forth. Havaya is the infinite, boundless goodness of God. The idea over here is bring Elokim into Havaya. Not ignore Elokim. Not go into Havaya where there is no Elokim. Not dive into Elokim and fix the problems in Elokim itself, because that can become very morbid and dark and painful. But the fusion of the both. Be in the space of Havaya, and from there, take your natural life, our physical life, and let's see how we can improve it and how we can make it better, holier, and godlier. And these are the words the Rebbe says over here. So we can add that when you're doing tshuva in this way, what it accomplishes is that you don't have pain and you don't have, hurt when you're making a honest calculation. When you see that there are things that still need improvement. Because what you're sensing primarily is not what's lacking, but you're sensing primarily how you're elevated and you're in a higher state. And as a result of that, everything in your life should shift. You're trying to reveal this elevated higher self in all aspects of your life, instead of being stuck in this particular small constriction and darkness. Even deeper than that, the Rebbe says that it should be felt even deeper. It's even deeper. The reason we messed up to begin with in these and X, Y, and Z and these particular aspects is because so that we should repair them. And when we repair them, we have the quality of a Bal Tshuva, of repentance, which is higher than the tzaddik. The righteous individual that is always attached to God, that attachment is lacking energy. It's lacking the potency and the power that people who go astray have when they come back. So when you can reveal, because you're in such a high state, you feel so deeply the connection, you can even uncover the deeper reason why there was ever a time of darkness. So you can forgive yourself. Not only can you forgive yourself, you can even applaud yourself for the darkness. You can, and yet be completely a transformed human being in all those aspects. Don't harp on your dark side. Recognize that those dark moments and those deficiencies are only now going to serve as a powerful infusion of new energy and attachment to God, even stronger than had we ever not been separated. And that reflects as well, the Rebbe says, in the name of Havaya and Elokim. It's an amazing idea. What? When Havaya the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, God's infinity, was shining brightly without any Elokim obscuring it, its power and its energy was never put to the test, and therefore it was never really revealed how powerful it is. When Havaya became obscured by the name of Elokim, by creation, and blocked and concealed, and dark elements started to appear in the horizon, a creation and sin and evil and all this stuff, which created a real dark stain, so to speak, in the midst of God's all-embracing reality. On the one hand, it's kavod. How can there be darkness? It's the biggest desecration of God's name that there can be. In the all-embracing truth of God, there is this darkness. Guess what? As a result of all the work and all the tshuva and everything, and when that darkest point will suddenly, when our dark world will suddenly become illuminated with the greatest, brightest light, Havaya is going to be more Havaya than Havaya was before. In other words, the strength and the power of Havaya is going to be realized because it was obscured and challenged with the name of Elohim. So it's uncovering how really the darkness itself was for the sake of a greater elevation, not only by us, but even in God himself, in Hashem himself. Let's do a little further. Let's do chapter 8. Now, this idea, the way we're doing tshuva now, this concept of tshuva, which we're supposed to do at the end of the first week of our service, to examine if our service is already on par with the new energies and the new infusion and the course that we've chosen this year. And if there's anything that's down there that's lower, not exactly, we should lift it up into this higher space. This is emphasized also in general in the way our service of in the energy of Shabbos, which is what the Torah portion of Noach is. Noach, we said in the beginning of the class number 1, Noach means Shabbos. Noach means resting. So Shabbos Parshas Noach is almost like Shabbos Parshas Shabbos. It's the Shabbos where the theme is Shabbos. If so, let's examine Shabbos and how this theme that we're talking about now, and that is tshuva in a way where we're not darkened in the tshuva, but at the same time we're not oblivious to what needs to be fixed, but we fix it with joy and happiness and with energy, and we don't become in any way, we don't slow down in any way as a result of the tshuva that we're doing. He says we see that in Shabbos itself. The concept of Shabbos is, it says in the pasuk, the Yom HaShvi, on the 7th day, it's a pasuk in Parshas Bereshis, Shabbos la'havaya lekecha. It should be Shabbos to Hashem Elokim. What does that mean? That Havaya reveals itself in the name of Elokim. Shabbos Hashem. That means during the weekday, all we see is Elokim. Shabbos is a revelation of godliness, so Havaya reveals itself in Elokim. Like it's explained in Chassidus, the verse that says, Vayachal Elokim bayom hashvi, simply it means that Elokim finished its work on the 7th day, but the deeper meaning is, as explained in Likutei Torah by the Alter Rebbe, that Elokim has come to a conclusion on Shabbos. The concealments, the blockages of the name Elokim, and what is revealed, there's a revelation of Havaya, Shabbos lahavaya, Shabbos to Yud Kei Vav Kei. So what does that mean? Not only that there is, we leave the world of Elokim behind and we escape to the world of Havaya, but what it means is that in the space of Elokim itself, Havaya is revealed. This is the theme that we're talking about. That in the small nitty-gritty crevices of life where we have hardships and difficulties, in there we uplift it and connect it to our greater, higher, pure spiritual selves. So this too, the Rebbe continues, is emphasized in the tshuva that we do on Shabbos. So Shabbos itself means tshuva. Shabbos oisi is tashef. Shabbos is the same letters. You rearrange the letters of Shabbos, you get the word tashef. Tashef means to return. However, we know, it's explained in Chassidus, that when we do tshuva on Shabbos, it has to be a very joyous tshuva. Shabbos, there is no sadness. So if we say Shabbos is a day of tshuva, and tshuva means repentance. Repentance always means seeing the negative and fixing it. How can you be happy? But yet we say, because why? It's explained in Chassidus that there's two levels of tshuva. One level of tshuva is the lower tshuva, which is one of pain and a person examining their mistakes and their dark things and feeling bad about them, and then pitying their own soul and their darkness and so on and so forth. Severance from God and whatever. But the higher tshuva is a yearning to reunite with God, which is done with tremendous joy. And that's the experience of Shabbos. Because on Shabbos, he says, we're not occupied so much with, or at all, with fixing the negative elements of our life. That we're supposed to do every week before Shabbos. It says in Tanya and in different places, that Thursday night, a person's supposed to do an extra accounting to repair the entire week. Because since Shabbos is the higher tshuva, in order to come to the higher tshuva, you first have to do the lower tshuva. So you have to kind of tidy up the house. You have to clean up, take a broom, a mop, and if anything needs mopping and cleaning, you do it on Thursday night or on Friday morning. But Shabbos is not that. Shabbos, you ascend to a higher place. Through what? What's the method? Primarily on Shabbos, we're supposed to occupy ourselves with Torah study. And in Torah study itself, we're supposed to learn the more transcendental Torah, Pnimius Torah, Chasidus and the like. What does that do to us? It causes us to become completely unified with our highest, deepest selves and unifying our highest, deepest selves with God. And from that perspective, we lift up the entire week into Shabbos. You pull yourself completely up into that higher space. The idea over here is, that's, what we're saying earlier, there's two ways of doing tshuva. Going back to this idea, you can do tshuva by diving down into the details of what needs to be fixed, or you can lift yourself entire consciousness and entire awareness into a higher place. And in a way that, now, there's a way where you're doing that and you're not doing tshuva, you're just escaping. That's not the point. The point is when you suddenly open up within yourself a higher appreciation of who you are and what you are, and what your whole soul is about, what your mission is. And now you say to yourself, oi, I wish every element of my life can reflect this deeper, truer self that I so deeply identify with. And you try to pull every aspect of your week into the Shabbos. That's the idea. As he says, so when you during the Shabbos, we're supposed to learn Torah in a way where you're melting your own spirit into the spirit of God. As dapkes rucha berucha means it's like a kiss, where our breath and it becomes one with God's breath. As it says in Tanya, that when you study Torah, you become unified with God with an infinite and inexplainable unity. And more than that, on Shabbos, one's supposed to learn Torah in such a... Now, we all know that during the week we learn Torah as well. But when we learn Torah during the week, we're not completely immersing in the Torah because there's so many weekly things that keep on grabbing our attention. There are weekly things that grab our attention. First and foremost, our phone. The phone rings. You feel someone messaged you. It's vibrating. This has to happen. That has to happen. You're not detached. Shabbos, because there's nothing there. You can't do any work. You can study Torah in a way that you completely melt into the Torah. So he says the learning of Torah on Shabbos is supposed to be in a way that you become completely covered in the Torah, similar to the way it's going to be when Mashiach comes. When Mashiach comes, which Mashiach is connected to Shabbos, because every Shabbos is a little piece of the day of the great grand Shabbos, which is the time of Mashiach. So the Rambam says, Maimonides says in the end of chapter of Kings, in the end of his book, when he speaks about the days of Mashiach, Maimonides says that the Torah study that's going to be in the days of Mashiach is going to be in a way that the water covers the earth, the water covers the sea. That means the entire world submerged in divine knowledge. The Rebbe says in our own individual way, on Shabbos, we can all submerge ourselves, go deep sea diving, literally like go deep into the ocean of Torah knowledge, of higher knowledge, merge with God, and lift ourselves up into that higher reality. And he says that should be every Shabbos. But Parshas Noach Shabbos, this is emphasized even more, doing tshuva with joy. Why? It's so beautiful. Because we just ended an entire month of Tishrei, which had so many holidays, and where we didn't say Tachnun. Now, Tachnun is the part of davening where we confess our sins. It's more of a heavier side of prayer. In the month of Cheshvan, we start saying Tachnun again. But the entire Tishrei, we didn't say Tachnun. And therefore, there's no Tachnun is associated with a little bit of the opposite of joy. But since we had a whole month where there was no Tachnun, so we didn't have to. We were in a general more joyous state. And even in the month of Cheshvan, the Rebbe says, where we started to say Tachnun already, that extra supplication, which deals with confession and all of that, the Rebbe says we're not used to it yet. So we haven't gotten it. The Tachnun energy hasn't gotten to us yet, because the holiday is still with us. It's still ringing in our ears. Therefore, the energy is still just joy. So even when we're doing tshuva, what is emphasized is just a joyous tshuva. So it's very interesting how in this talk the Rebbe is really calling for us to do tshuva, but he doesn't want a heavy tshuva. He wants the tshuva really enthusiastic and exciting. So now what's so amazing is you have to join next class. The Rebbe is going to make this tshuva for the entire world, and is going to teach us now how to enter into Mashiach with this tshuva. Really, really spectacular. Bezrat Hashem, next class that we're going to do in a few moments. Not a few moments, I'm sorry. I plan on doing it tonight. My regular Monday class, since I'm not in our regular place, I'm going to push off Bezrat Hashem to Tuesday night. But this evening, I plan on doing another class to finish this amazing talk, so that tomorrow we can begin the Lech Lecha talk, which is also super amazing. Thank you all.